Before dawn, the Black Sea's slow waves carried a new kind of threat. Ukraine's drone operators, hunched over laptops in camouflage bunkers, stared at grainy heat maps and radar returns showing Russia's largest port. Novorossiysk, a strategic lifeline for the fleet, logistics, and fuel, sat sprawling along the misty shoreline. Its docks were filled with cargo ships, warships, oil terminals, cranes, and the control towers that kept the southern edge of the war supplied and connected. This was no regular port. It was Russia's naval hub, the funnel through which ammunition, missiles, and the resources to sustain operations flowed in and out with relentless precision. For weeks, Ukrainian scouts and spies observed the port's rhythms. Satellites peered down through clouds to note the movement of tankers and troop transports. Partisan agents recorded the arrival of new anti-drone radars and the schedule of missile transport convoys. They discovered multiple layers of defense: surface-to-air missile batteries on the hills, patrol boats on constant alert, searchlights scanning the water and sky, and jamming systems designed to scramble any drone signal for miles around. Russia believed the port impregnable. Routine drills practiced spotting low-flying threats. Radar operators ran through protocol after protocol. Each dock sat beneath watchful sensors, backed by rapid response units. Marines with man-portable air defenses, motorized teams with PCAMs, and armored cars that could block the access roads in minutes. Yet as supplies poured in to shore up the front lines, Ukraine's drone designers aimed higher, not just to disrupt shipping, but to cripple Russia's main southern base. Ukraine's plan married old-fashioned sabotage with cutting-edge drone warfare. First, they identified choke points, fuel depots whose destruction would trigger firestorms, ammunition ships lined up along concrete piers, and control rooms that managed the deep water intake valves and traffic lights of the entire harbor. Then, using a network of holding positions and stealth launches, Ukraine built a swarm force. Dozens of FPV kamikaze drones, several larger autonomous USVs, uncrewed surface vessels, and high-altitude relay drones for jamming and targeting. At 2:40, the operation began. On quiet beaches far to the west, operators pushed their drones into the frothy surf, pre-programmed to skim just above wave height and masked by a low-pressure weather cell that dulled radar effectiveness. In the air, stealthy quadcopters climbed into freezing mist. In Kyiv, a command center linked every asset by mesh radio, each drone a moving pixel on a vast battlespace map. The Armada split as it neared the target. FPV drones raced ahead in tight waves, designed to distract and overwhelm Russian close-in defenses. The surface vessels held back until the aerial assault reached peak intensity, using the confusion to slip closer under cover of darkness. High above, relay drones sent out powerful jamming bursts, distorting the port's newest air search radars and flickering electronic screens in the control tower. For a few minutes, alarms sounded, operators cursed, and sensor feeds filled with static and false ghosts. At dockside, Russian forces spotted the first incoming drones through night scopes and shouted warnings. Anti-drone rifles fired, bringing down a few attackers in swooping arcs. But as the defenders focused on the obvious threats, larger dangers advanced. A pair of Ukrainian sea drones, covered with radar-absorbent black paint and running almost silent motors, cruised past the sensor perimeter, moving just above the water toward the critical oil storage tanks. On the piers, confusion increased. Russian Marines rushed to reposition vehicles and shoulder-fired SAMs, but the mesh jamming and overlapping drone signals made identification confusing. Several operators fired at what they thought were drones, only to hit seagulls or discarded equipment blown by wind. Diesel trucks tried to block the breakwater, but drone pilots shifted courses, zigzagging past obstacles. Within minutes, the lead FPVs reached fuel storage, each packed with just enough explosive to ignite a full-scale blaze. Operators watched through camera feeds as their drones skimmed over concrete and sped toward the tanks. Russian defenders opened up with machine gun fire, but amid smoke and panic, only a handful of drones were hit. One FPV detonated against a main fuel pipe, sending a column of fire roaring into the sky. Seconds later, another slammed into the adjacent tank, its warhead punching through insulation, igniting thousands of liters of stored oil. Chaos erupted. Flames spread from tank to tank, the heat distorting infrared sensors and blinding most local optics. Port alarm klaxons hammered through the air. Russian fire crews raced out, but waves of drones circled overhead, dropping small charges on exposed vehicles and forcing responders into cover. On the seaward side, Ukrainian USVs closed in, their onboard navigation fixed on the ammunition ship, the largest in port, a key supply to Russia's frontline artillery. Russian patrol boats tried to intercept, but mesh relay drones jammed their coordination. One USV slipped past, striking the ship's hull amidships. The explosion lit the harbor in orange, rocking cranes and tossing debris over the dock. Simultaneously, quadcopters soared over the control room. One jammed, opened the windows, and dropped a bundle of small charges inside, wrecking delicate monitors and electronics. Communications between the harbor pilots, military command, and central logistics all dropped offline. T3 o'clock, the port was in freefall. Russian defenders called for backup, but confusion and electronic warfare made organizing a response nearly impossible. Docks burned, trucks jackknifed in panic, ships drifted from anchors, and officers barked into dead radios. Clustered around what protection remained, Russian Marines tried to coordinate a counterattack, but every move was met by another wave of Ukrainian kamikaze drones and jamming pulses. By sunrise, more than a third of the port's capacity was lost to fire and blast. Tanks burned for hours. The ammunition ship, now half submerged, threatened secondary explosions. Fuel slicks floated on black water, and cranes collapsed onto ruined piers. Satellite images showed a port transformed, not by a single bomb, but by combined action, deception, and relentless innovation. On the Ukrainian side, cheers erupted as video feeds confirmed the destruction. Russia's largest port was crippled in a single night, not by a fleet, but by squads of strategists and technicians wielding electronics and remote controllers. Yet, as the sun rose, deeper consequences were only beginning. As the sun rose over Novorossiysk's mangled port, the true scale of the attack became horrifyingly clear. Dense columns of smoke spiraled into the sky, and fires reflected in oily puddles that stretched across the cracked tarmac. The smell of burning fuel, scorched metal, and ruptured cargo clung to the air. Civilians in the city's high rises awoke to explosions echoing across the bay, watching from balconies as emergency crews fought flames that seemed impossible to control. Inside the port, panic reigned. Russian fire teams struggled to reach the worst-hit sectors. The heat from fuel tank explosions made some areas impossible to approach. Water from shattered mains sprayed uselessly, spreading burning slicks across the docks. Medical teams braved sniper-like drone attacks just to retrieve the wounded, dodging flying shrapnel and drone fragments. The ammunition ship's wreck became a new epicenter of dread. Flames climbed its twisted hull as secondary explosions sent bursts of metal and debris far across the harbor, damaging nearby ships and cranes. Rescue craft had to dodge burning debris, and malfunctioning automated cranes stuck mid-stride by jamming. Senior officers found their command centers in ruins. Radios buzzed with desperate SOS calls and the confused shouts of defenders calling for clarity and reinforcement. Attempts to organize a counterstrike quickly ran aground. Mesh jamming drones still orbited high above, relentless in their pounding barges of electronic noise. New Ukrainian drones kept appearing from the sea and skies, some flown directly from the coast, others launched by hidden partisans in the outskirts of the city. Each new wave targeted what little organization remained: generator clusters, water pumps, and key vehicles that tried to bring order amid disaster. Wider consequences rippled outwards. Russia's Black Sea Fleet, long dependent on Novorossiysk for supplies, refueling, and repair, was stunned. Ships, still able to move, hastily slipped out of port to anchor in deeper, safer waters, unsure if unmanned threats would return. Rear logistics hubs faced a sudden, massive backlog. Grain, fuel, munitions, and military vehicles sat in crippled warehouses or on stranded rail cars as the port's automated loading systems crashed. Even international shipping was thrown into chaos. Commercial docks shared infrastructure with the military, and merchant convoys had to be rerouted, fearing sabotage or accidents from unexploded ordnance. In the power vacuum, Ukrainian information warfare surged into action. Social media news flashes showed burning ships and burning tanks. Posters celebrated the night the port burned, and memes mocked the failed Russian defenses. World media networks picked up live satellite images and civilian videos, showing the before and after devastation. Rows of ships now scuttled, blackened cranes arched over flaming docks, and huge scars on vital infrastructure. Russian officials scrambled to contain the damage, both real and reputational. The Ministry of Emergency Situations rushed extra crews to the city. The Navy set up alternate offloading points and improvised refueling at lesser ports. Police flooded the downtown, blocking access to sensitive zones, while drones and helicopters circled, searching for more threats. At the same time, frantic political messaging declared the disaster under control, minimizing reports of ammunition losses and denying that defenses had failed. But on the ground, no one doubted Ukraine's success. The port's fuel reserves were a total loss. Dozens of vehicles were destroyed, and reparable ships floated half-submerged or listing against mangled piers. It would take months to rebuild the hardest-hit sections. Even after the fires stopped, damage to cables, electronic controls, and pipelines prevented a quick restart of normal operations. Black market operators in the region scrambled, sensing opportunity amid chaos for quick profits or sabotage operations of their own. Worse for Russia, deeper operational consequences began to unfold. Units at the front lines, dependent on daily convoys through Novorossiysk, now faced shortages of fuel and replacement parts. Tasked with reinforcing battered sectors, logistical planners were paralyzed by missing or destroyed inventory. The armored trains and military trucks that used to roll in on a strict timetable now waited for ad hoc rerouting, slowed by missing cargo and confusion in the port's war room. Communications breakdowns led to embarrassing mistakes. A detachment of Marines went unsupported for a day as their armored vehicles, loaded in Novorossiysk, never arrived. Anti-air and artillery batteries sent frantic orders for new shells, only to learn their resupply ships were inoperable or destroyed. By the end of the week, entire sectors reported being forced to ration fuel and ammo, disrupting scheduled attacks and blunting the pace of Russian advances. Ukraine's partners took note. Allied intelligence services praised the operation as a model of combined drone and electronic warfare, using decoys, mesh relays, and coordinated strikes to defeat layered defenses and exploit chaos. Western officials pointed to the attack as proof of Ukraine's ability to disrupt Russian logistics far behind the front, quietly supplying even more high-end drone and counter-jamming gear, while demanding Russia explain its vulnerability to such asymmetric warfare. Even as the Russian Navy and emergency services rebuilt defenses, Ukraine adapted its tactics, using footage and data from the strike to redesign future operations. Drone manufacturers analyzed what worked. The wave assaults, deceptive maneuvers, high-bandwidth networks, the synchronized timing that forced defenders to reveal their positions and fire ineffectively. Planners in Kyiv mapped out other targets, refineries, train yards, coastal resupply hubs, applying the Novorossiysk lessons to cripple Russian operations elsewhere. In Russia, the mood darkened. Initial government reassurances gave way to questions. How had so many drones evaded advanced defense lines? How had a supposedly secure port become vulnerable to coordinated electronic disruption? Angry commanders demanded answers from regional officers. Inspections increased, and harsh lessons were imposed on port supervisors, sensor operators, and security officers. But in private, many wondered if the defenses could keep up with Ukraine's fast-changing, cheap, and deadly drone swarms. The psychological blow was perhaps the deepest cut. For months, Russia's port had symbolized logistical security. a place of predictable order and control. Over a single night, Ukraine had turned that symbol into a warning. No hub was safe, no defense impenetrable. Local morale suffered, with rumors spreading that the next attack could strike oil fields, Navy headquarters, or even bridges across the Kerch Strait. As cleanup dragged on, a new normal took hold. Ruined sections of Novorossiysk were cordoned off. Charred towers loomed above water clogged with scorched invaders and friendly vessels alike. Engineers and sappers risked their lives clearing hidden explosives, guided by drone footage transmitted directly from Kiev. Markets around the Black Sea readjusted. Insurance costs skyrocketed, ship operators delayed or rerouted cargo, and diplomatic ties shifted as the wider world realized Ukraine's reach extended deep into the heart of Russian logistics. By the end of the month, Novorossiysk was no longer a fortress, but a cautionary tale. Rebuilding would take months. The Russian fleet and frontline units would feel the strain for far longer. The message was broadcast far and wide. No matter how large, defended, or essential a site may be, it is vulnerable in the era of networked, coordinated, and relentless drone warfare. Deep in Ukrainian territory, new battle maps went on the walls, ready for the future, inspired by the night when the world's eyes turned to Russia's largest port and saw it burn.